PM teams, general contractors, subcontractors, BART construction managers, in order to identify situations and offer assistance with problems. Our technical assistance comes in one-on-one assistance. It can be offered to groups, and of course is available online. Quickly as we move forward, this is some information about our upcoming workshops. We have a very extensive schedule, and we have a lot of subjects we're going to cover as we move through the spring to the summer. And all of our workshops will be housed on the BART, on our program's website, the Yes Course website, and we have information about that. So this will be available on that website for future reference purposes. And so with that, I will bring to you Mohammed Taleb to give you more information about the pre-construction submittals and how to get started. You're muted, Mohammed.
Thank you, Harry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mohammed Taleb. I am a small business support services technical specialist. I work with the rest of the team, and I'm gonna be talking about pre-construction submittals today. A little bit about myself. I am a resident engineer, currently working on a 34.5 kV line replacement, kV cable replacement project for BART between El Cerrito del Norte station and the Richmond maintenance yard in the city of Richmond. The project hasn't started yet, but we are hoping to start in the spring of 2021 in a few months. I have nearly 30 years of engineering experience in contract administration and construction support services in California and overseas. I have about 7 years of direct experience working for BART. I started out as an inspector and worked my way up to a position of resident engineer. My last project was the Coliseum Station and Fruitvale Station seismic earthquake seismic retrofit project. My role as the technical specialist is to provide assistance as much as I can in interpreting contract and specifications and plans, and try to work with the small business establishment to help in any way or form to make their mission easier and more productive. I do have a phone number which is shown on the screen and an email. The minute you realize, the minute the contractor realizes that they need assistance, I would appreciate it if they call immediately before it's too late. My phone number is on 24/7. Don't worry if it's night, weekend, holiday. I have had the opportunity to work with many small businesses on weekends and at nights. As if I did not enjoy this, I wouldn't be saying this. So please do not hesitate to call. Forget about the time zone or anything. Just reach out for the phone and give me a call, and we will take it from there. Can we move to the next slide, please? Talk about the agenda. Next, thank you. In today's discussion or presentation, workshop, we will be talking about submittals, construction submittals. We're gonna start by defining what construction submittals are, and then we will move on to describe the reason why these submittals are being developed as a requirement, as a contractual requirement established by BART. We will then discuss some submittal fundamentals, the procedures, the roles and responsibilities for both the contractor and the engineer or the RE in this case. And we're gonna touch on the review process, what it takes to get a submittal back to the contractor with comments, or if it is approved or conditional, if it's approved or not approved, and then what it means to have a submittal, a complete submittal reviewed and approved. We have submittal review caveats that impede or prolong the review process. It sort of has an impact on, sometimes it may have an impact on schedule and cost. We will discuss those and see what we can do to avoid going into conflict of expectations. Conflict of expectations is between the contractor and the reviewer. Why are expectations there in the first place? What is expected from the contractor by the reviewer, and what the contractor expects from the reviewer? It's a two-way relationship that must go on throughout the project, and particularly throughout the submittal review and approval process. And then we will talk very briefly about incomplete submittals, what they mean and what they can cause. In this case, I chose delays because delays are the most important factor in getting the job done within cost and on schedule. Next slide, please. There are reasons why construction submittals are there, and a submittal is defined as we can see on this slide as a written graphic document or sample prepared by or for the contractor, which is required by the contract documents to be submitted to the engineer. There are, I'm going to talk about typical construction submittals. To name a few here, we have typical construction submittals such as product data, shop drawings. Product data submittals are usually documents that include certifications. These need to be modified because a manufacturer has several types of products, which serves the same purpose, but they come with different properties, different qualification, different material and different capacities. So these documents usually are submitted as they are received from the manufacturer. It will be the contractor's responsibility sometimes to highlight the product that they intend to use or that they propose to use. I received during my time submittals which just contain catalogs, which have different grades of pipes or different types of pipes, different sizes, different material, and the contractor never selected or never highlighted the type that he selects. I can't read minds, so it is always important if you have a product data with the product data sheet that it is usually highlighted. You usually highlight the selected product with the appropriate data that meets the contract requirements. We also have shop drawings and layout drawings. This is a self-explanatory term. A shop drawing is required to show the reviewer that the contractor knows what they have to do, and here is how they want to do it, and this is how they propose to build this. Now, there are sometimes situations which we will be discussing later in this presentation that make shop drawings more complicated than they really need to be. I will be talking about this in a subsequent slide. Samples for initial selection. If, for example, I want inside the station to install tiles that match the existing tiles, the existing tiles may not be available. Similar tiles to those existing may not be available because these were installed 35, 40 years ago and may have been, and I've personally been through this. So I received samples of tiles that are close enough to be used in place of the ones that were demolished during the work inside the station. So samples with their properties, this is one of the number of forms to provide substantiating information to the designer or to the engineer, I mean, and the reviewer to show them that this material meets the minimum requirements. Samples for verification. These are selected material that may be sampled and tested at any time by requirements of the reviewer or the engineer. If you want to use this material instead of the material that is specified, for example, you have to prove to me as a contractor that the material meets the minimum requirements that are prescribed in the contract documents. Product certificates and data sheets. These may include testing data, schedules, illustrations, and so on. This is basically to describe the material for the purpose of performing some portion of the work. We have quality standard compliance certifications, which are certificates of compliance. These are usually the certificates of compliances confirm that the material that is arriving to the job site meets or exceeds the minimum requirements that are established by the contract documents. For example, concrete, it has to have a certain cement content, water content, grading material, the aggregates, or it must have some additives and retarders. All of these are mentioned in the certificate of compliance or are confirmed by providing BART with a certificate of compliance stating that this material conforms to the requirements set forth in the contract documents. Qualification data. This is another submittal that is probably not too many people. Everybody uses these. These are usually written information that demonstrate capabilities and experiences of a person or persons. For example, welders, crane or drill rig operators, they have to be certified. They have to have certain amount of experience. Similar projects, similar scope of activities that they perform that are that would qualify them to do the respective work that we have on any project. And then we have deferred submittals. Those are portions of the submittal that are not usually or not submitted yet. They need to be submitted to the engineer within a specific period. Like in my case, we had HVAC equipment that we needed to verify, but because the designer, who happened to be the reviewer, changed some features in the design, made it necessary to bring different type of HVAC unit, and that was the submittal was deferred until the design was completed, and then a matching unit was selected to meet the design requirements. We will also be discussing about this particular case in one of my projects. Moving on, can we go to the next slide, please? I have also listed more submittals thanks to the Market Street Canopy team, Luis Paez and Nicholas Houchen. They were instrumental in helping me out by sending me a list and saving me a lot of time in putting together a list. I just modified the appearance to make it look the way it does now, but I appreciate the help that I got from these two gentlemen. These are some pre-construction submittals that are mentioned. For example, we have a work plan submittal. The first line on each square, the first line refers to the specification reference or the section number. And then the second line is the name of the submittal, and then the burgundy color between two parentheses is the period of time within which this submittal is required to be submitted, to be transmitted to BART by the contractor. Project scheduler submittal, security procedures, schedule of values. All of these submittals need to be submitted within a certain period of time within the notice to proceed letter, which tells the contractor that they can now proceed with the work. And these have to be submitted before the work begins. Detailed SSWP, interim contract set schedule, for example, which is an update, the baseline schedule, and then the updated schedules. These are, the baseline schedule is required at the pre-construction meeting. And the format of this schedule, we will be talking about this also shortly. So these are lists, this is a group of submittals that are usually required within the pre-construction period between NTP and the beginning of the construction. I will also want to highlight that some pre-construction submittals, for example, the project that I'm working on right now, I have certain types of submittals that are job specific. So these are mostly constant for every project. There will be additional submittals that are mentioned in the contract documents for every project. I have to have lubricants, for example, or some submittals for establishing excavation and shoring and dewatering. This will be happening almost throughout the period of the contract. So you don't have shoring and dewatering in a gate installation or HVAC maintenance job. So there are always additional construction submittals, pre-construction submittals that will be required. These are also all of them are mentioned in the contract, and they are readily available and very easy to find. Next slide, please. We're going to be talking now about why these construction submittals are developed. What is the purpose? This is a two-way relationship between the contractor and BART. As much as BART would like, as much as the contractor expects to get paid for their services, BART expects to get their money's worth. It's a two-way relationship, and if there is no winner or loser here, both have to win. So the contractor needs to confirm that they understand what the contract documents require, what is required by these sets of documents, by the specifications and the contract plans. The contractor also needs to demonstrate that their proposal is in compliance with these plans. It is not enough to know what the contract wants or what BART wants. It is equally important to tell BART that I intend to prove that what I have in this submittal meets the expectations, meets the requirements, proves that I'm understanding the documentations and I know what needs to be done and how it will be done. And the submittal is to pretty much say how this will be done and what materials it will be, what materials are going to be used. Similarly, on BART's side, the reviewer must determine if the contractor does understand the contract documents correctly. This is reflected by making the references, the necessary reference to the contract documents during the or throughout the submittal package. You are in the cover letter, you are telling me what section of the contract you are referring to and what section of the contract you are adhering to. So this will give me a confidence that as a reviewer, that you as a contractor know what you're talking about and understand what needs to be submitted and done. It is also the reviewer's assignment or job to review and comment or correct where necessary the contractor's misunderstanding. And this misunderstanding may be attributed to errors and omission in the plans, because guess what? Whoever prepared these plans and the documents are humans too, so they are prone to making errors. And as long as the reviewer pays a close attention to the specifics of this submittal and review and comment these submittals, the comments are based on the understanding that the contractor understands the documents and that he can demonstrate that in their submittal. Next slide, please. Okay, submittal fundamentals. There are procedures. There are steps which we have to go through in order to have a submittal prepared, reviewed, signed, stamped, submitted by the contractor and received, reviewed, approved or commented on by the reviewer. There are steps. The steps that we need to understand prior to the submittal are mentioned in the BART Facility Standard Spec Section 013300, Article 1.05A. It basically explains what the contractor needs to do, which is submitted to the RE for approval, and what the reviewer needs to do, which is review the submittal. But before we review the submittals, I will have, if you remember, we mentioned that one of the pre-construction submittals is a list of submittals that need to be submitted by the contractor. Similarly, the reviewer or BART has to have their own list of submittals, and they will compare them with those that are submitted by the contractor. Usually those are discussed throughout the project. So most of the time, the lists will be compatible or matching. The steps in performing the actual review of the submittal, the submittal will not be accepted unless the contractor stamps it and signs it and attaches it to a vendor print transmission or submit it by hand. There are protocols by which we all have to behave, if you will, in handling a submittal, how it is submitted, how it is received, reviewed, and returned. The independent submittal by the reviewer, the independent submittal check list, it back checks against the contractor's list. And I think I put this twice here. This is my mistake. The steps in terms of reviewing the submittal, the reviewer will review the submittal and then provide their comments and stop the clock, or depending on the type of comments. We'll talk about those comments in later, a little bit later in the presentation. Can we move to the next slide, please? There are contractor duties and there are reviewer duties, or RE duties. The contractor duties basically is to determine that the field measurements, for example, and conditions have been determined and measured and verified. The quantities, the dimensions need to be accurate and complete. And this does not happen unless the contractor, verify this at the job site. Safety considerations and coordinating the work with others in terms of trades. There are other contractors working on this project. You need to know, you need to look at the big picture. Who's working there, and when will we be stepping on each other's toes, so that I can avoid having to go through that scenario. I need to coordinate the work with these guys, with these people, the other contractors or other trades or local agencies. Maybe I need a permit. This will have to be, this is the contractor's duty, not BART's. BART will tell you what the requirements are, but the contractor will need to perform their role or their responsibilities to determine what type of permits or clearances are needed from stakeholders. The city is a stakeholder in the project, and they will need to know if this work is to their standard, if it will hinder their efforts to perform their daily duties. They will have inspectors driving around all day just looking for stuff that may cause trouble. So the contractor needs to ensure that the submittal is complete with all relevant data for review. Do I have the product data sheet? Do I have the catalogs? Do I have the manual or the certificates of compliance? Or at least do I have the sources identified? Is it meeting with the sources that are listed or highlighted or specified, like Buy America, for example? Buy America has a certain requirements. So you can bypass this if you have a certain, if you meet the qualifications that qualify you to bring something from India or from China, for example. The contractor needs to review, stamp, and sign as reviewed and approved by the contractor prior to submission. The contractor needs to, all these documents need to be reviewed, signed, and stamped by their staff. If it involves submitting something that needs like false work or shoring or dewatering, it has to be reviewed, or traffic control, it has to be reviewed, prepared, reviewed, stamped, and signed by a licensed engineer. The contractor needs to certify that they measured the dimensions. If you are building a wall of a break room inside a station, and by the time you come to the footing area, after excavating, you realize there is a duct bank that is irregularly shaped and that encroaches into the area of your work. This is not your fault as a contractor, but there needs to be a solution and that meets the requirements to comply with the contract documents. Next slide, please.
Okay, before we move on to the next slide, I know you've covered a lot of content and you're doing an amazing job sharing all the data and information, but I just wanted to jump in and see if anybody had questions about anything that has been covered so far. Now will be the good time to get your questions in before we move on to more content.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Kawana.
you're welcome.
Another part of submittal fundamentals is the RE duties or the reviewer duties in this example, in this case. Unless otherwise noted, submittals are understood as being made for approval. You are giving me something to review and approve. There are other submittals that may be for information or for record purposes only. They don't need to be reviewed, and there is no, they are not subjected to the rigorous or to the timely procedures or timely events of the normal submittal reviews. So in this case, the contractor must indicate by informing the reviewer that this is for information and for record purposes only. The RE will review the submittals for conformance with the requirements of the contract documents. I think there is nothing, it can't be stated any simpler. There are requirements, and we have a submittal to build something or provide something in accordance with these requirements. The reviewer will review to make sure that these requirements are met. Another reason for reviewing the submittals is, are they constructible? Are they compatible with the existing site conditions? If you are, for example, fixing or installing something in a bent cap or in a beam overhead, an overhead beam, you are definitely, and you cannot use man lifts. You need to use some sort of temporary structure. Is this temporary structure constructible? Is it compatible with the beam that you will be working on? What are the safety measures that are taken? What are the calculations that you are using to prove to me that this suspended or temporary structure will not fall and cause disaster? So part of the review will involve the constructability and compatibility features of this submittal. Sometimes I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not a mechanical engineer. So if I need something for fire suppression system or for installing a circuit board, I will have to transmit this submittal to a subject matters expert, like an electrical engineer or mechanical engineer or a landscape architect, to review all the components of the submittal and make sure that they meet with the requirements of the contract. And that's why it is always a good idea to engage these people as early as possible in the contract by the RE, by sending them courtesy notices that we have this program project coming, and parts of the project will involve working in areas within your expertise. So expect something to come your way from us during the course of the project. And basically that's how we get these people involved as early as possible. The submittals after review are returned with an action block, which is a red rectangular stamp that is basically telling the contractor if the submittal is approved. In this case, it's no exceptions taken, approved as noted. The reviewer's comment in this, the reviewer added some notes or put some notes. It is approved, but there are some comments that have been incorporated and that need to be reflected, for example, on the as-builts, in order for it to be completely approved. But there is this type of approval, you don't need to submit if it is approved as noted, you don't need to resubmit it, but you need to incorporate the comments. You need to incorporate the reviewer comments. The work must reflect the reviewer comments, and this will be documented in the as-built plans. Again, not approved, resubmission required. You need to have the resubmittal revised, modified, changed for a variety of reasons. It could be anything from technical to irresponsible safety items that haven't been that have not been included. It can be simply it just doesn't meet the requirements. Rejected. Rejected is basically it doesn't qualify in form and in substance. It has to be submitted in a certain format, and the substance, the core of the submittal needs to be in compliance with the requirements. Not reviewed. These are submittals that are, this is usually for submittals that are for information or for record purposes only. The reviewer will acknowledge seeing it, but not reviewed because it doesn't need to be reviewed. There is another type of approval, which I have not seen, but I have seen written, limited approval. This is an approval except for work impacted by the reviewer's notes or comments. If I get a review, if I get a submittal and I review it, I have approved parts of the submittal, but others are not approved. It is not a comprehensive approval, and it must be resubmitted to get a full submittal approval. This is mentioned in the BART facility standard section 013300. Next slide, please. I selected a couple of samples for describing what it means to go through a review process. The upper section with a 30-day review submittal with a 30-day review time. This is as an example for construction progress schedule. Selection of the software that will be used in providing this and in transmitting this submittal. There are 30 days for contractor to return. The CM, construction management team, or the RE in this case, reviews it for completeness and then forwards it to the subject matter expert, who is usually a scheduler, an expert in scheduling. The scheduler, the reviewer, will have comments that are summarized and that are collected and summarized by the engineer or the construction management team, and then this team returns this to the submitter, returns the submittal to the contractor with the comments, if it's reviewed or if it's approved or approved, if it qualifies under any class of the approval classes. And then, so basically, the reviewer has 2 weeks between the time the submittal is prepared and submitted to the contractor, by the contractor to the engineer, and actually beginning the review. So they will have about 2 weeks total time. Again, this is all mentioned in the BART facility standards. The review time for SSWP. As an example, if you have to work within within the train zone of influence, I think, or within the zone of the train itself, you need to describe and illustrate to the manner in which the work may be affected or may affect the operating system. This is for operating system interface submittal. It has to be submitted it has to have a description and illustration of how the work is going to be done and what safety measures are taken, and and the work is going to be performed, for example, within BART approved work windows. If you're going to be working during blanket hours, which are the hours within which is the period within which the trains are out of service. So this is a 42-day review time because there are a lot of entities that need to look at this. System safety needs to look at it, track allocation, train control, electrical, all kinds of people need. So you probably have, once I had one of my submittals needed 12 signatures before it was approved. So these are just two examples of submittals that, and how long or what the review process of each submittal involves. Next slide, please. Really quickly here, I know this is cramped up with words, but I'm going to summarize this. This is one of the caveats of submittal reviews is the conflict of expectations. If you remember earlier in the presentation, we talked about who's expected who to do. The BART is expecting the contractor to understand the documents, to understand the requirements, and submit their proposal or their submittal accordingly. Similarly, the contractor expects the reviewer to review within the time slot that has been allowed for this particular submittal. There are times when, if you jump straight to the third bullet, it is not the contractor's responsibility that the contract documents are in accordance with applicable laws, statutes, ordinances, building codes, and rules and regulations. This does not mean that they may come in clean. There are errors and omissions that should not be unexpected. And quickly, a perfect example, in a break room construction, we were in my project, one of the requirements was to construct a break room inside a station, and the contractor provided their shop drawings and submittals, and I had no problems. If it were up to me, I would have approved it because it was as required and it met with the requirements. However, the reviewer at that time happened to be the person who designed the break room. And when they looked at the documents, they had a change of heart as far as the HVAC units. They did not like the way the units on top of the buildings were positioned. So they wanted to revise their orientation by simply turning them 90 degrees. Well, that didn't work well with the contractor because he had his material prepared and fabricated so that this unit will be positioned exactly as shown on the contract plan. The designer, and who is also the reviewer, did not take the time to notify me, the RE, that there are changes coming. So as far as the contractor, BART failed them because they surprised them with this when the contractor started fabricating material and assuming that there is nothing wrong with the work, And there wasn't really anything wrong with the work, but the designer had a change of heart, and he's the client, and we have to accept that change. But for changes to happen, I expect you, the client, the owner, to notify me, to forewarn me, to make me aware that there are design changes coming, so that I don't spend the time and resources in providing you with documents that will soon be obsolete. The reviewer will provide engineering support to the project manager. We had firefighting system to be installed, and I'm no firefighting system expert, so I had to send the material to a firefighting system expert who provided the necessary support, took the time to go out during blanket hours to see how the work is being performed or how the work will be performed. He reviewed the documents, he approved them, and everything went fine. This is because a subject matter expert provided the engineering support. So it is an expectation from the RE that and the contractor that BART will provide the necessary support to perform the review. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm going to jump in real quick. I think right now will be a good time, since we only have just a couple of small business owners on, on with us. Will be a great time to hear from some of the small business owners, maybe PGI, who have perhaps ran into some submittal issues that you want to share, and this will be a good learning opportunity for us as well.
Absolutely.
Well, me personally, this is Melvin from PGI. Me personally, just making sure that you understand what is required of you ahead of time and reviewing the documents thoroughly prior to endeavoring to submit anything, I think will make the process smoother. We go through a series of revise or revisions, necessary revisions, and in a lot of instances, we just weren't as familiar as we needed to be. So just having a working knowledge of what's required of you is just fundamental. And that's just my experience. And it just makes the whole process, makes everybody's job easier.
Exactly. And we all need, as partners, as teams, as a team, both BART and the contractor, we all need to build a sensible background and help maintain the review time to within reasonable limits. Time is usually very critical, especially if you are coming in between operations and you need to get in after somebody gets out and need to get out before somebody else moves in, because your work is sandwiched right in the middle. So I completely understand the fact that revisions and back and forth exchange of submittals and submittal reviews can be damaging, and simply by time, which can translate into money afterwards. So building a sensible background and help it that will provide enough information to help maintain the review time to within reasonable limits is perfectly is very legitimate to expect. And sometimes I have contractors who worked before the submittal was approved, and they did not notify us, and they ended up taking down whatever they installed and redoing everything, and it was they ended up paying for it. So the approval must be received before any work begins. If it's going to be delayed, it's always better to pay now than pay a lot more later, as I always say. And in this case, for the break room example that I mentioned, BART suffered a delay cost. They reimbursed the contractor for the delay, and not only that, the contractor also submitted a direct support cost claim, which was justifiable. Of course, I fought it, and we agreed to meet at somewhere in the middle. But BART is, this will be, I will talk more about this in the takeaways and in a couple of slides. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Incomplete submittals, just as the name indicates, a submittal is missing dimensions, features, calculations. So asking the RE questions before sending a submittal the RE needs to ask themselves questions before sending the submittal to the SME, because the one of the RE's responsibilities is to review the submittal for completeness and for accuracy. So do I know that the work the contractor will perform is in accordance with the contract documents, requirements of the contract documents? Does the submittal have the details that are needed, the layouts that are expected? If there are any design calculations, are they signed and stamped by licensed engineers? Are there product data and reports? Is the product data highlighted, or am I going to be guessing what type of hollow structural steel will be used, for example? Any certificates of compliance or certificates of manufacturing, mill certificates in case of iron or steel. All of these, I have to have a checklist for this submittal, and I will check everything as I go through the submittal. If one area is not checked, I will alert the contractor, and then we will work together so that we can submit a complete package to the reviewer and minimize any delays that may result from having an incomplete submittal. If I take these drawings, for example, the shop drawings, I want to go and make sure that these shop drawings are prepared with the existing conditions in mind. Is the wall away from the fence, the way it is shown here? We have an existing fence that we cannot relocate because it's right against the sidewalk. The next possible place to do it would be in the way of the people who are using the sidewalk. Now, do I have enough clearance? Do I have the, there is a pull box that was discovered under the future foundation of this unit that I'm building. Has the pull box been relocated? Has the owner been notified? All of these things need to be taken into consideration. And if I miss any of this, I'll end up being the one who pays for it. Okay, next slide, please. In conclusion, this is what we have as far as takeaways and key points in today's presentation. Timing. If you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, 4. The first 4 bullets are somehow connected with each other. They're somehow related to one another. Timing, documentation and review, communication, rights and responsibilities, all have something in common, which is getting the work done and getting it done right. BART's goal is to clarify, BART's goal is clarity of scope, to clarify the scope of the work and minimize the risk for bidders or for contractors. As an owner, BART is really being fair and transparent. At the same time, BART fights for its what is rightfully BART's. As I mentioned earlier, if I want to pay you, I want to make sure that I get my money's worth. The minute the concrete leaves the truck, I own it. So I want it to be placed in accordance with specifications, with the requirements. Timing is a very important key. It is all about sharing responsibilities. You give me the submittal, I will review it and return it to you. Documentations, if I don't have enough information, I cannot return the submittal to you as approved. So it has to have the necessary details that I need to review. Communication, talk to me, and I will be talking to you. I'm gonna pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a piece missing here. How about giving it to me before lunch today or as soon as you can so I can get it out to the subject matters expert and save on time. Rights and responsibilities. You want me to do a review, you want me to finish the review so that you can get the work done and get paid. I want to make sure that what you're doing is what I want you to do. So it's all about communication and timing and documentation and understanding your rights and responsibilities. Common takeaway from all of these presentations is taking advantage of the SBSS program. It's a free program. It doesn't hurt to ask questions. I have been doing this for 30 years and I'm still asking questions. I'm learning. It is not a problem to ask for help. It is not embarrassing. We all know that you guys did great as working with your hands in the field. Now you need some administrative support. You need some somebody to walk with you and make sure that you don't trip and fall over. The program was initiated by BART to encourage and to incubate small businesses, and then who will never be small for the rest of their time, who will aspire to be bigger and bigger. And the only way to do this is by learning through the way. And use this free resource. We are here to help. We are not complaining. And I personally enjoy it. So help yourself to your dialing my number. I'll be more than happy to help anytime, day or night, weekend, and the works. And this should do it for me. Thank you for your patience. I know I talk too much, but that's what happens when you love what you do. Any questions? To that, thank you very much. And back to Harry, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mohammed, for that information about the submittals and how and the role they play at BART and how important they are for the construction process. If there are no questions, we want to thank everybody for attending. We are available. Mohammed's information is in the presentation. I believe my information is in the presentation. If you have any questions or any issues with your project, please feel free to reach out to us. If we can't help you, then we can direct you to a department or someone who can help you. So thank you again and have a good night.
Hey, Harry, everyone will get a PDF copy of this presentation, correct?
Yes, if they'd like, absolutely.
Okay, good.
It is available.
Questions in the chat. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will also be saved on our website. So I can send you a link also to the website so you can go back and review it at your leisure.
Hey, thanks, Harry. Thanks, Mohammed. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. And thank you, Mohammed, Harry, Mike, everybody, man. Thanks for your help along the way. I really appreciate you guys.
All right.
Just as long as you're staying out of trouble, Melvin.
I'm trying, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.